want to welcome everyone who's watching today. It is my pleasure that today we have Leslie Trainor, who is the Deputy Director for Workforce Development for the County of Riverside. I know you have actually a much longer title than that, and I'll let you kind of explain what it is your role is at the county. But I want to thank you for taking some time right now to kind of talk with me about the role of workforce development, what it does within our county, and obviously to talk about kind of what we're dealing with right now, what kind of is next for workforce development. So, but why don't we start off, Leslie, why don't you kind of introduce yourself, your title, what you do, and who you are to everyone.
Okay, great. Well, Patrick, thank you for having me on today and giving me the opportunity to share information about Riverside County workforce development and the services we offer. And before I go any further, I also want to thank you, Patrick, for your participation in the Riverside County Workforce Development Board, serving as the vice chair. The perspective you bring to the board on business, and especially small business, has been greatly appreciated. So as you mentioned, I work for the County of Riverside, and I serve as the Deputy Director of the Workforce Development Department for the county. I also serve as the Deputy Director for the county's Workforce Development Board. Previously, I was with the county agency formerly known as the Economic Development Agency, and had a longer, more complex title. But the Economic Development Agency has recently undergone some restructuring pursuant to the Board of Supervisors. And so my title got a little more, it shrunk down a little bit. It's a little less complex now.
That's streamlining, right?
Streamlined,
That's
yes.
Right.
My title was restructured.
Yes, so good. All right. So my first question to you is, and I know from a lot of the different phone calls and Zoom calls and webinars that I've been on over the last few weeks, is I think that there is a bit of confusion in the public of the difference between workforce development and EDD. And I think it would be good if you could maybe kind of give a little bit of distinction between the two so people kind of get an understanding of what is what.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to do that. Workforce development and the California Employment Development Department, or EDD, we are two completely separate bodies of government, two completely different entities. However, we work together very closely, so it's understandable why there is that confusion. And there's a good amount of overlap in the type of work that we do. So for Riverside County Workforce Development, our primary source of funding is WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, and that's a source of federal funds. It flows down from the federal government through the Board of Supervisors, and therefore county employees like myself are involved in delivering services through the county's Workforce Development Division. And those services include helping youth at youth opportunity centers that are throughout the county. We also have 3 America's Job Centers, or one-stop shops, or workforce development centers. They have a few aliases, but basically they're locations where folks can come in and receive all kinds of different services like career coaching, or using our computers to spruce up their resumes, taking workshops, things of that nature. And at those locations, they're called one-stop shops for a reason, because we want to make sure that people who have some sort of employment-related need can walk in and receive services from a multitude of different agencies to assist them. So, you know, if you've lost your job and you need help getting a job, you walk in the door and you don't care if the person you're talking to is a state employee or a county employee. And so the lines get blurred there. So in our America's Job Centers, or our one-stops, one of our biggest partners is EDD. Mm-hmm. And so you will find them at our Indio, Riverside, and Hemet one-stop shops. And they're in the mix, and if you walk in, you can't tell the difference between a state EDD employee and a county employee. Within the EDD, they have departments and divisions, just like many other government agencies. They are a state agency, and within the Employment Development Department, they have the Workforce Services branch, and those are the folks that we have at our local America's Job Centers. And then there's a different department that handles unemployment insurance. And those folks are primarily up in Sacramento. So if you were to walk into a local AJCC or America's Job Center, I'm trying to not throw out too many acronyms there. I am a government employee. It just comes naturally to me. If you were to walk into an America's Job Center, you would not see staff from the unemployment insurance department of EDD. You would see a different division. So there's even that nuance in what division of EDD people are in. So for unemployment insurance specifically, I've been finding on some of these recent webinars that it's people don't totally understand how the unemployment insurance system works. I mean, not even beyond being confused between workforce development and EDD. They're like, how does this whole unemployment insurance thing work? And
so true.
If you turn on the news and you hear, there's something happening at the federal level and it's going to impact us at the state, but like, how do those dots connect? So unemployment insurance is a program that is federal. It's at the federal level, and it's administered at the federal level by the Department of Labor. The Federal Department of Labor has the funding, and they promulgate the guidelines or requirements that go along with unemployment insurance. They funnel that guidance and the funding down to the states. And for the state of California, our department that administers that on behalf of the Federal Department of Labor is EDD. So what we've been seeing lately is we at the Workforce Development Department, the county employees like myself, have been getting a lot of inquiries from folks who are trying to apply for unemployment insurance and are having all kinds of interesting challenges and questions. There are technical glitches sometimes on the website where something goes wrong, and they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? They don't have a job, and this is the money they're counting on to pay for groceries, pay for the roof over their head. The stakes are high, and it's been difficult to get a hold of anybody. I did some stats, Patrick, and the number of unemployment insurance claims that EDD has been dealing with over a 4-week period increased by over 1,000% in Riverside County. So they had this huge jump in inquiries and claims and applications. And as you can imagine, from an employer standpoint, that's nearly impossible to keep up with in terms of staffing capacity. So we've been getting the overflow, and we even from some of our board of supervisors, they we'll have a constituent say, oh my gosh, I'm having this problem, and they say, can Leslie and your team, can you please help? So we troubleshoot, we assist however we can. Our partners from the local EDD, which is not the unemployment insurance folks, are doing the same as well. They are actively helping folks troubleshoot any issues and problems that they're having applying for unemployment insurance. They have been fabulous partners. Some of them used to work in the unemployment insurance department, right. And so they have that knowledge and understanding. But does that sort of clarify?
Yeah, I think that's a good, because I think the main thing right now is a lot of people are thinking that workforce development is also the entity that works and helps with all the unemployment issues, which is not. But the role that workforce development does have is those who are unemployed, it is our intention to help get those people employed as quickly and as effectively as possible, right? So that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, obviously we have a large number of unemployed right now because of our current circumstances. We hope that the majority of those people in the next, somewhere between 2 and 6 weeks will start to get back to work in some way, shape, or form, right? Obviously, there are those of us who have the ability to work from home, so we've been able to do that, but there are some that's not possible. So we hope that we start to see as businesses reopen in the form that it will be, is that some of these people will start to get back to work. But we also know that with the way things are going, some of those businesses are unfortunately not going to be there for people to go back to. So that's where the role of workforce development is going to play in getting some of those people back to the workforce. And obviously it will depend on how many numbers of jobs there are out there. Before, like we've talked in the past, like you were saying a little while ago, 6 weeks ago, this was exactly the opposite, right? We had the lowest unemployment numbers. We had businesses who were literally, to an extent, stealing people from other businesses because they needed the talent in that workforce, and so they were taking it from wherever they could get it. That's going to shift now, and so workforce is going to have to play a much larger role in getting a lot of these people back to work. I know it's hard to say right now, what does that look like but what do you kind of see as like some of the challenges that workforce is going to be faced with? Obviously uncertainty is the biggest one of them all right now. But I guess, what are some of the challenges and what is workforce development kind of trying to plan or ramp up for, to an extent, say over the next 3 to 6 months?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that uncertainty, because at this point we really have to be ready for anything, and for a couple different reasons. First of all, in order for us to be doing our job, we need to make sure that the entire workforce system is strong. That is our goal. And the workforce ecosystem really consists of two major players in the workforce ecosystem. There's the workers, the labor force, but there's also the employers. So at Workforce Development, we provide programs and services to both, because we need both sides of that equation to be strong. So we really have to be ready to support whichever side needs our support in whatever way that looks. And we may not know how that looks. The workforce development team went through the recession. We saw unemployment rates jump up, and there were lines of workers around our building looking for jobs. And like you were saying, 6 weeks ago, unemployment was very low. We had employers calling us saying, we need talent, we need skilled workers. And now we're at a place where it's all just weird. So we actually have to be ready for either of those things, for both of those things. It's entirely possible for there to be sort of an interim period where we're on our way, heading towards a good place where things are more stable. But it's going to be a journey. It's not like flipping a switch where,
right,
we're all in quarantine one day and then tomorrow we all take our masks off and go to work, right, and back to normal. It just is not going to work that way. Some people have been laid off, and for some of those folks, it's a temporary situation. They are going to go back to their previous positions. For some folks, either it was designed to be a permanent layoff, or they're going to take this as an opportunity to transition into something else. we have to be ready for those folks who either were involuntarily laid off or have chosen to use this as a transition into a different career path even. And for those folks, we need to be ready with our career coaches to talk to them about what is a professional path that makes sense. How do we at workforce development get them to where they want to be? Is that training? Is that really just connecting them with an employer who's looking for the skill set that they have? And on the employer side, we have to be ready for all kinds of different possible new realities too. So we're seeing employers right now, particularly manufacturers, which we have a lot of in Riverside County. That is one of our sector assets is our manufacturing sector. And we've got a lot of those employers who have decided that they're going to take their existing operations and repurpose their lines to manufacture different products that are needed to respond to the COVID crisis.
Right. And
for some manufacturers, that's going to be maybe a permanent change. Maybe they're going to discover, a new area of where they can add value in the regional economy, and they're going to go in that direction. And that for them will represent a shift in how they're doing business. And they may need us to support their efforts in that direction. For other employers, maybe they laid folks off and they just need help as quickly as possible refilling those positions. So we have to really be ready and think quickly on our feet to respond to whatever happens, because in all honesty, Patrick, I think that we're probably going to be dealing with all the above options. They may just come at different stages. True. So it may be that at first we're working with workers, and then we start working with employers, and then it goes back to us needing to focus on workers. So I would have to say that the biggest challenge for workforce development is for us to have a very clear, strong sense of the tools we have in our bag of tricks, mm-hmm. and how we can best utilize them regardless of what situations confront us.
Yeah, and you reminded me when you were kind of talking about that is that a conversation you and I have had for ongoing for the last couple of years, and I think it resonates a lot right now when you talk about, because I was running a chamber back during the last recession and saw what happened during that period of time, and that, that 2 to 3 year period after that. So, 2009 through 11, we saw a lot of small businesses start, right? And that a lot of those small businesses now are medium-sized businesses. But you and I have talked about how workforce development looks at everything basically just as providing a job to somebody. Do you think that this could be a unique opportunity? Because we keep talking about how, whether it's in business or your organization or your mindset, that this is that time where you have to look at making a pivot moment, for yourself. Is this that opportunity where workforce development boards might be able to say, hey, instead of just looking or creating jobs for people, should we not also think about that entrepreneurial aspect and support those who are looking to create a business to make more jobs? Do you think that this could be one of those moments?
I do. And in fact, when I was referring to workforce development being aware of all the tools in our bag of tricks, that is one of the things I'm referring to. So as a case in point, my team and I have been closely revisiting and rereading the regulations for our primary funding source, which is WIOA, or the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And, we've been using that funding in a certain way over the last few years because it's been a good fit. But because we're in unprecedented territory. That means we have to behave differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to behave differently, we need to know the parameters within which we can behave. Or for us, that would mean what can and can't we do with our funding source.
Right. Yeah.
And so we have been revisiting the regulations with a different set of lenses on, and that set of lenses being, we are in strange times right now, and we've got employers calling us and asking us for help pivoting in a way that we have not dealt with before. So what can we and can't we do? And entrepreneurialism is one of those things that we have had conversations about. Another thing that we've had conversations about is looking more closely at incumbent worker training, or taking existing employees that employers have and upskilling them. So this could be useful for going from a small to a medium business, which that's fantastic. I love hearing about. That's amazing. It's also something that we have been looking at doing to grow the clean tech, green tech economy around our region, particularly in light of the fact that the California Air Resources Board is moving their Southern California headquarters to Riverside County. That kind of entrepreneurialism and upskilling of the existing workforce is going to be a key ingredient in transforming the way our region thinks of itself and the way others think of our region too, and shifting that paradigm. So I do think that opening up and expanding our idea of what workforce development is timely and prudent. But I mean, for me, it's exciting. Like, this is an amazing opportunity for businesses and workers if you do so after doing your due diligence and, making informed decisions, of course.
Yeah, no, I completely 100% agree with you. So, well, I want to thank you for your time. I know wanted to see if there was anything else you wanted to share. I know that you have been very diligent on trying to find businesses, especially manufacturers, that have the ability to kind of pivot and provide resources that are desperately needed at this time. So do you want to kind of share that, and then anything else you wanted to share before we close?
Well, you teed it up, so Patrick, I'm going to swing. Yes, I want to mention that we have been, the workforce development team, we've been looking to identify manufacturers in Riverside County, manufacturers or distributors in Riverside County of COVID-related products. And I'm referring to essential life-saving products like ventilators, masks, gowns, gloves, goggles and face shields, a lot personal protective equipment, things like that, for a couple different reasons. First of all, we want to connect those businesses with folks at the county public health who are in great need of those products and equipment, and also connect those businesses with the state, who is also looking to procure those types of products. Again, the workforce ecosystem is workers and employers. We are trying to strengthen our local employers. The folks that are open now, we want you to stay open. We want you to continue to thrive and be strong. That's one way we can do it. In addition, if you're a manufacturer or distributor of those types of products, it's possible that you may have workforce needs right now. Either you have existing workers that you want to upskill so that you can increase the amount of product you're producing, increase the quality of the product you're producing, switch over to a different type of product that's COVID related. We want to support you. If an employer also needs new staff, new employees to accomplish their business objectives, we at Workforce Development want to assist you. We have access to information about the labor force in Riverside County who is looking for a job. So if you're an employer, you have an open position. We know workers who are looking for jobs. we want to assist in making those connections. So anybody who is or knows of a manufacturer or distributor that fits that description, if you want to reach out to me, I would so appreciate that.
But Leslie, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know you guys are crazy busy right now with everything that's going on. So I do appreciate you taking a few minutes to kind of talk with me so we can kind of let everyone know what is going on and kind of point people in the right direction. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Patrick.
All right. Thanks, Leslie.